right, well, as people continue to go, oh yeah, it's 6:30, time to hop on. I will at least get started and get the less fun stuff out of the way and start on our introduction. So good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the launch of Maryann Cocca-Leffler's newest picture book, The Power of Yet. We are so excited to hear this new story and to do some drawing together. Just as a reminder to everyone, Maryann will be answering questions after the reading and while she's drawing. So if you look to the bottom of your screen, you'll see that there's a Q&A function. You can submit questions there throughout the entire event, and I will let Maryann know what those questions are later on. And she has also offered to come in and personalize orders that you place on our website. I'm dropping that link right now. So you can get your very own copy of this brand new book. And if you haven't already printed one out, at the bottom of that page that I just posted, you can find a PDF for a Power of Yet coloring page. One final reminder before I introduce our author guest, Print a Bookstore will be closed from Sunday, January 17th to Saturday, January 23rd for a bit of a reading break. You can still place orders on our website during that time, and we will begin processing them on Sunday, January 24th. And now, without any further ado, it is my honor to introduce Maryann Cocca-Leffler. Maryann Cocca-Leffler is the award-winning author and illustrator of more than 60 books for children, including Growing Season, Same Way Ben, and The Belonging Tree. And I'm super excited because you've presented all those books at print by this point. So that makes me feel real special. Her book, Janine, was inspired by her daughter, and together they have developed a corresponding website, janinesparty.com, with a mission to help change public perception of children with disabilities. When not working in her Portland, Maine studio, Maryann is visiting schools and libraries to share her books, and you can learn more about her at maryanncocca-leffler.com. Without any further ado, I will pass it over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for coming. I'm trying, I don't see myself big, but I'm not sure. Okay, I got it. Thanks for being here and welcome to my studio. I don't visit schools lately, but I did in the past and hope to in the future. But before I begin, I just want to do a few thank yous. I want to, of course, thank Print and Stephanie for hosting this event. They've been so wonderful and supportive, not only to me, but of the many Portland area authors and illustrators. I would love to thank Abram Books. They're my publisher, and I'm so thankful that they loved The Power of Yet. Especially, I want to thank my editor, Meredith Mundy, and my art director, Hannah. Hi, I think you're out there, but thank you for believing in my work and helping to bring this book out, because it is The Power of Yet's birthday. So finally, it's out there and published, and I'm so excited to share it with you tonight. The way I'm going to do the evening, just to let you know, I'm going to open by telling you how I got the idea. I'm going to read the story. Then I'm going to show you a little bit about the path to publishing. And I think that may be of interest of some aspiring author and illustrators out there, or children that are interested in drawing. And then I'm going to actually attempt a live illustration demonstration, which is maybe dangerous, but we're risking it. So let me begin by telling you the idea behind the book. As Stephanie mentioned, I did a lot of school visits. So at one such visit in Nashua, New Hampshire, I came into the school and I went to the office, and right above the window of the office was a poster that said The Power of Yet. Okay, then I went to the library and I met the librarian, and on the way I saw The Power of Yet. And above her desk was another big poster, The Power of Yet. I said, someone's trying to tell me something. So anyway, I asked the librarian, I felt a little foolish, but I said, what is the power of yet? And she explained to me that they were doing a school-wide K-5 program on the power of yet, which meant that to inspire their students, if they couldn't do it now, with practice and patience and lots of determination, they will be able to do it. So, and then she went on to explain to me, this is very big in the education. There's lots of information about it in the curriculum, but there's no books about the power of yet. Why don't you do one? So I went home and I Googled the power of yet and realized it's a thing. So I said, you know what? I think I'm going to try this. So I set off by writing a poem. And that is what you're going to hear today. Of course, it doesn't just happen. I worked on it. So I'm going to read the story now, and then I'm going to step back again and show you that publishing process of how this book actually came to be. So let's just hang on one sec. Here we go. One thing I did want to say is when I got the idea for this book many years ago, by the way, I of course had no idea that we would really need patience and courage just about now. Who knew what 2020 would bring? So I hope this book will help us all, the little ones and the big ones. The power of yet. I'm going to try to be really good about showing the illustrations because there's not a lot of text, but the illustrations tell the story. So there is the cover. And I decided on this character. And one thing I do want to mention too, my character is gender neutral. I wanted the child to really decide who the character was, whether it's a he, she, or even the family. I don't say this is mom, this is a teacher, this is a sister, this is a dad. I want the child to sort of discover or even create their own world within the book. So for the sake of this, I'll be referring to Piglet as he once in a while, but it could easily be a she or a they. The power of yet. And that opens the illustration opens the story. You see the piglet riding along on his bike with training wheels. Okay, so there is the beautiful end pages. Abrams did a wonderful job. I always dedicate my book to someone special in my life. And this book is dedicated to my daughter, Kristen. Your childhood self would be in awe of the courageous, talented person you are today, as am I. Keep inspiring your students. Love you, Mom. My daughter needed a lot of encouragement, and she was the type of kid, if she couldn't do it well the first time out, she would quit. Well, luckily, she grew out of that, and she's very courageous and tries crazy things and does a lot of it, and now she's inspiring her own students. All right, the book actually starts on the title page. And if you look at the illustrations, you'll see that Piglet is, with his training wheels, spies a big bike. So here we go. Again, Piglet is right there and he's looking rather wobbly and he's getting helped by someone. Could be dad, could be mom, could be brother. And the text says, not yet. Okay, there's Piglet trying to flip a pancake. It's stuck to the ceiling. Not yet. He sees a sign. Of course, I can't read it. Star Team 6 and up. Not yet. He's trying desperately on his violin. Not yet. And in line for a ride. He doesn't meet the requirements. Not yet. He's spread out on the floor with a 1,000-piece puzzle. Not yet. Yet. How do I get to yet? Now, I envision that this was his older sister, but she could be anyone you want her to be. And she says, to get to yet. Wait a minute, did I miss something? I'm sorry. I did, I'm sorry. The path to yet is not a straight line. It takes growing and doing and patience and time. So begins his lesson. To get to yet, you'll drop the ball. You'll do it wrong and take a fall. I love that illustration. You'll try and practice all day long. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. You'll try and practice along the way and make mistakes, but that's okay. I can definitely relate to this illustration. It sometimes helps to work together with someone who can do it better. And there he is, probably getting a lesson, getting some help. You'll have to wait to join the team, but waiting is part of reaching your dream. Counting the days. He's finally 6. You'll get sad and angry, but don't you quit. Not happy. Strike 3. You have power and courage, and that's called grit. Yay! I'm sorry, I'm having trouble turning these pages. Keep trying and growing, and I'm willing to bet that sooner or later, you'll get to yet. The time has come. You have learned the how. You did it. Yet is here. Now take a bow. Be proud of all the goals you met and never give up on the power of yet. And the back illustration sort of completes the journey. He's riding his bike all by himself. That's it. I hope you enjoyed it. Well, now I would love to show you a little bit about how Yet became a book, the process, which is sort of fun. As I mentioned, I got the idea several years ago. So, of course, it took me time to sell the book. So in order to sell the book, by the way, I don't have an agent. I never had an agent. So I have been representing myself for 40 years. I was just telling Stephanie that I realized it's 2021. In 1981, I signed a contract for my first book. So it's actually my 40th anniversary as an author and illustrator. So with that said, I got the idea, as I mentioned, I wrote the poem, and the next thing I do, and I think a lot of authors and illustrators can relate to this, is I do a storyboard. So I do little pictures, and this is the size of, just a regular piece of paper, and that's 4 spreads up. And you can see there's lots of things I change, and but it's just little pencil drawings. And I'll work out the story. And of course, things change, and I keep gluing on different things. But once I work out the storyboard, this is for my own benefit, and it seems to work. Then what I do is I make a dummy, or I'll send a dummy via a PDF online. And in this case, what I did was I actually blew up some of those little storyboard pieces, and I put together a book. As you can see, the original title was just Yet, and that changed along the way. So what I sent was a PDF of the book. So and as you can see, it really didn't change much from my submission. So many times I do an actual dummy. This happens to be the dummy of my book, Janine, which I actually made several, and I mail them. But now everything seems to be easier to send it PDF. So what I did was I sent a bunch of submissions to different editors, and luckily my editor, Meredith Mundy, loved it and brought it to acquisitions, and thankfully Abrams said yes. And then once you agree on a advance and you sign the contract, then the job of illustrating begins. I illustrated this book, so that is my job. So what I did next was I always torture myself, because it seems like every book I have to develop a new style. And of course, here I am trying to work to figure out how I was going to illustrate this book. So I began to experiment. And just like Piglet tells us, you have to take risk, and you have to take chances, and you have to make mistakes. So I dug deep and channeled my own power of Yet. So what I did was I started experimenting with pen and ink, and I've never really did a book with pen and ink before. So I'm learning as I go. But what I discovered, I started working with different tools. And I stumbled across some tools I ended up using. And you're going to sort of laugh, but these are chopsticks. Chopsticks became my drawing tool, one of my drawing tools, along with bamboo pens. You can see they come in different sizes, as well as just your old pen and ink, what they call nibs, different size nibs. Okay, so with these 3 tools, I began experimenting on several different kinds of paper. So these are just some real quick sketches of early rough ideas of how I might use these tools in watercolor. So you can see, you probably won't see much difference, but I do. So I began experimenting and doing the same drawing over and over again, using different thicknesses, using different papers. And what I decided on was, for those who are interested in the kind of paper I decided on, I ended up with Fabriano Artistico 140-pound cold press. And cold press means it has a tooth to it or has some texture. Hot press is smooth. So that was my paper. And then I began illustrating the entire book. First thing I did, was I sketched it out full size. So here's just one spread of that book. And I use a lot of tracing paper and keep doing the images over and over again. Once I finish all the sketches, I will send my sketches to my art director and my editor, and we'll talk about it and go through them to see if there's any changes. And once that's approved, I work on the actual art. So now we're going to do something really crazy. I'm going to try to demonstrate the process of a piece and how I use these tools. So bear with me for 1 second, because I need to just move my camera down so that you won't see my face, but you will see my hands. Now, my artist friends tell me that I'm sort of nuts to do a live demonstration, but hey, listen, Piglet can try new things, so can we. So I'm going to move the camera, so excuse me a sec and we'll see. All right, I don't know. I think that might work. I hope you can see it. I'm going to show you, it's going to be upside down for you, but that's okay. Let me just tell you how I worked on this book. Well, I start by, as I mentioned, I start with sketches. So here's a sketch I did of Piglet. And what I do is I transfer my sketch onto my good watercolor paper via a table that has a light table where the light is underneath. So I'll put this down, I'll put a clean sheet of paper over it, I will trace it, and what I get is a very light drawing of my image. So then what I do is, I gotta open my ink here. Hopefully you can see. My ink is Higgins waterproof. It has to be waterproof because you're going to paint over it. And if it's not waterproof, it is all going to bleed. So, okay, here's my ink. Oh no, okay, don't spill anything yet. I think you can see my ink, sort of. Okay, I'm gonna back up a little bit. So the tool I'm gonna work with first, oh, I should have, let me just shake this ink, just make sure it's not watery on top. Okay. The tool I'll work with first is the chopstick. And I always work with pieces of paper next to me to wipe off some excess before I actually draw. Now I'm dunking it in my ink, and I'm just going to draw with this. And you know what I like about it? I'm going to show you in a second. I had to do this flat because it's ink and it's going to drip if I was standing up. Let's see. This is what we have so far. And I like this because it could be very thick or very thin, depending on how much ink you have on your chopstick. But another nice thing about using a paper that has a tooth to it, or some kind of, I'm going to show you. Once the ink sort of runs out a bit, you get this nice, there we go. You get sort of, I don't know what to call it, but a nice texture comes along the line. Okay, I'm going to continue. So what I do is I start with the thickest thing, which is the chopstick. And I will outline where I think I sort of want it to outline. Because when you're doing something small, you don't have the option of using a big tool. But actually, I'm sort of excited because this is coming out better than I thought it might. Okay, so I want to stop to sort of show you what I have so far. That's what I have so far. And you can see some of the thicker line in some places and some thinner line. All right, so, and oops, okay. Well, it's okay to make mistakes. We have to embrace Piglet. And, you know, and I think a lot of artists will tell you that mistakes are sometimes a good thing because it turns into something good. All right, so then usually, of course, I'll slow this down, but so then what I'll do is I pick up when I feel like it and when I think it's necessary. I'll change tools. This is the bamboo pen. And this also is a similar thing in that it has a nice, when it runs out, I know it's hard to explain, but I'll try to show you here. When it sort of runs out on my pen, you get a nice edge. You pick up the edge of the paper. All right, so then I'll continue jumping from tool to tool. And of course, you see what I just did. I just rubbed my hand against that, but that's okay. Things can be fixed. It's still wet, so I'm sort of risking this. So last thing, especially when I'm working on a smaller, more detailed, I'll use a smaller tool, which right now is just a nib from a regular pen and ink pen. And that's where the smaller details come in, like the little lines to the violin, maybe some sort of a shadow kind of thing. And I'll just keep going over the lines until I think I'm good. I'm good to go to the next step. All right, so let me just show you what we have. It's not, you know, it's not the best illustration, but it gives you an idea of how I work. All right, so there is Piglet. By the way, that PDF that Stephanie was talking about for the kids on the print website, it does have a little thing on the bottom which says draw Piglet. So it has sort of instructions. So what I'm going to do now, you know, when you watch a cooking show, they always pull out the finished cake out of the oven. Well, I'm pulling out an illustration that I did this morning of the same, that's sort of more finished. The reason I'm doing this is because now I'm going to add color, and it takes time for the ink to dry. So you have to dry in between. And Piglet will love this. Again, I made a mess there, but those little mistakes can be taken care of digitally at the printing, at the publisher. I am a low tech kind of girl, so I don't do the Photoshop and all that. All right, so now we're going to switch. Let me cover the ink. We're going to switch to adding color to this. I used watercolor. It happens to be, this is tubes. You can get Winsor Newton or whichever is good. I did put some just dabs of color on this very expensive palette. And I have my water here. And I have my paper towel. All right, so we're just going to add a little color to, let's get this guy out of here. A little color to Piglet. What color was his shirt? I think it was red, but we're going to do green. Of course, again, it's tricky because with watercolor, you're supposed to let things dry too, but when you go in, again, but we're sort of just going to wing it. I don't have a big amount of different colors, but let's see. I'm not showing you my palette. But, you know, you could go right over the ink because it is dry now. Oops, I'm rushing, so we got some black in there that we didn't want. But anyway, this gives you an idea how Piglet came to be. I'm just gonna show you a little bit. It's not easy to display inks that watercolor without it dripping. But that gives you an idea of how this was made. And of course, we messed up, but that's okay. I'm going to just put him in a green striped shirt. Yellow. Steph, if there's any questions while I wrap this up, you can throw them at me.
Yeah, sure. This has been absolutely amazing. I've loved the tutorial of all your different tools, and I don't know if you're seeing the chat at all, but people are really enjoying your very fancy designer palette that you're using right now. There's been a couple people saying that they have the exact same one at home. And all in all, I love seeing. It's kind of a great example of how you don't need big, fancy, expensive tools. Like you can make this gorgeous, beautiful art with a chopstick and some ink and a paper plate and some paints. It's really lovely.
Right, I'm coming back. So I am here, and this is what, it's not done yet, but this is what I'm sort of working on.
It's beautiful.
Well, I don't know about that, but it just shows you the process. And of course, just to wrap up, of course, I will spend however long. Usually I like 6 months at least to do the illustrations for one book. This book was a little shorter. It's 24 pages. But once I get all the artwork finished, I'll ship my artwork to my editor and art director. And they, of course, take it from there as far as, sending it to printer, getting it printed, and getting it out there in the world. So, by the way, I want to thank all the people at who's behind the scenes at Abrams, who has helped get the Power of Yet out to the world, marketing and everyone else. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed our time, and I'd be happy to sign anything that I'm going into the store on Thursday. So feel free to request some personalization. I'll make sure I do it. And to end, everyone take care of themselves. Just like this book says, the world hasn't healed yet, but it will. So let's keep having patience and courage, and we're all going to get through it. Thanks so much for having me, Stephanie, and for everyone out there that has tuned in. I really appreciate your support, and I wish everyone health, happiness, and don't forget, you have the power.
So we do actually, there were a couple questions from the audience if you have just another couple minutes. I know
Sure.
we went a little past when we were expecting, but this is amazing and I don't care. So we have a question from Kathy Balumili asking, do you prefer drawing people or animals more? You do both so well.
Oh, well, thank you. It's funny, I get bored really quickly. So if I do a book that has a lot of kids in it or a lot of people, I tend to think, okay, it's time to do an animal book. But it really depends on the story that I sell. I happen to just be wrapping up artwork for a book that I'm shipping to Albert Whitman tomorrow called We Want to Go to School. It's about disability rights, and that has a lot of people in it. So it really depends on the book. I like doing both, but in between I get a little itchy, and it depends on what I sell and what I write. But thank you, that's a great question.
Now we also have a question from Janine Leffler asking, how does the power of yet relate to the goals that I am setting for this year?
Stephanie, your audio was in and out, and I missed the end of the question.
Oh, sorry. So it was, how does the power of yet relate to the goals that I am setting for this year?
Oh, that's my daughter. Well, I think we all have goals, and I think when you try something new, it may not work out right away. So you have to dig deep and perhaps do it over and over. And I think patience is a big one for everyone right now. And I think we just have to go forward. Another thing is taking risk. I think we have to take risks to succeed. And when you take those risks, mistakes are made, and it doesn't always go smooth. But I think just, stick to it and keep moving forward, and you will eventually get there.
And Jean Reedy, oh, we have more questions coming in.
Sure.
So yeah, okay, actually, Jamie Hogan said, what is a bigger challenge for you, the story or the art?
That is a great one. One of the big challenges is selling the story. But I think coming up with the idea and finding that book that has not been done yet is a huge challenge. And I know for every author and illustrator out there, to go through and get, tons of rejections, not everything I write gets published. So to write something that hits something inside an editor to make them want to purchase it. But yeah, and then of course, illustration, as Jamie knows very well. I have a lot of challenge with illustrations because I keep changing my style. So I torture myself with every book. But I think writing is probably the toughest because there are just so many books out there and so many topics, and to just find that connection, and not everything's going to sell, and that's tough too. Thanks, Jamie.
All right, well, I think those are all of our questions today. And once again, we so much appreciate both you sharing your story and you giving us a peek into your studio here. It's been absolutely lovely to watch you create our very own Piglet.
Well, thank you for having me, Stephanie, and all the people at Print. I appreciate you, and I appreciate everyone out there. I appreciate you coming and supporting an author. In this times, I mean, this is really unusual to have Zoom events, but we do what we have to do, and hopefully we'll all get back, and I'll get into schools again and into bookstores. Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening.